Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget starting from scratch. And so today we are going to put the spine on our book and hopefully we'll get the front cover, the inside front cover done too. So last week we dyed our fabric and I wanted just a little bit more color to it. And so we are going to, I went ahead and I added the hairspray that was in here to my other hairspray bottle and filled this with water and took the label off. So now I won't be putting hairspray on my plastic. So I'm going to make this wide enough to do both sides of my fabric so that maybe we might like one side better than the other. And I'm kind of really looking for the darkness because our cover is kind of dark. So we're going to just do this with watercolor. These are just kids' markers. I'm coloring on a piece of a plastic Walmart bag. And we are going to use this to dye our fabric a little bit more. Okay, so now hopefully this will give us a nice misty spray. Because we're doing fabric, I am putting quite a bit of water on it. You know, just nice misty sprays, but like with paper, you don't want to do too much water because then what happens is your paper really gets saturated, which that's no big deal either. When we tea dye paper and coffee dye paper, we dunk it right in the water, so it won't hurt anything. I'm just going to see if I can maybe kind of move it a little bit. All right, let's see what it looks like. Ooh, I think I like the looks of that. I don't like this darkness in the middle, but I'm just not going to put it right in the middle. I'm just going to come just over to the side. Press it down to pick up that color, and then we're just going to fold this over here and put this color on it and keep our fingers crossed that we haven't ruined it. Give that fabric, give it time to soak into the fabric. Oh yes. That's much better. It's not so light. It was just too light to me. It's actually going to dry a little lighter than this, but I wanted that brown in there. I'm wondering if I should just try and pick that other color up or not. No, I don't think I'm going to. Save that for another time. Now let's see what it looks like with our book. Oh yes, I like that much better. Much better. Yes. Okay. So now what we're going to do, and it is a little bit damp. You can let it dry, but we're going to get it really wet with our glue anyways, so it's not going to make that big of a difference. So we have our spine that we prepared last week that is going to fit on our book like this. It's going to fit on there just like that. And that's what our spine will look like, except we don't want it to look brown and white like that, so we are going to cover it with our fabric. So we're going to use our water glue. Now the water glue has set for quite some time, and so it has actually got quite thick. I make my water glue, which is like a Mod Podge. I make it 1 part water to 2 parts glue. Now actually now it's probably closer to almost regular glue because the water has evaporated a bit. But let's see, how do I want to do it first? I'm going to put the tacky glue where our little spines are, and then I'm going to do the rest with the water glue. And I think that we'll do that. I was just trying to think, what do we do first? I think I'll do the tacky glue first and get it spread out I want to get into those little crevices there. To make sure that it, and we want to get it right on top. Don't forget to get it on top of your little bump there. And we'll wrap the fabric around the back, but we won't do that until after we get the front nice and done and dry. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing down here. Getting it right into those crevices and on the top. There we go. I'm going to put some of the tacky glue right around the top also, even though we'll also use the tacky glue on the inside and it's going to be wrapped around this, but just for the heck of it. Okay, we're going to set that aside. And then we're just going to take some of our water glue and just paint it on there. Now the water glue is 2 parts glue to 1 part water, and the glue that I use is any kind of a white school glue. So like Elmer's glue, but the one that I actually got was a Crazy Art, it says on it. So it doesn't have to be Elmer's glue. Also the white glue, school glue from the Dollar Tree works very well. So there's nothing specific that you have to, nothing special. Just let it dry. I'm going to spread this out a little bit with my brush here. Whoop, almost dropped it. Okay, set my brush aside. And decide which side of the fabric. I want this side of the fabric to be up. I see a spot there that doesn't have any glue at all. Get that on there. We don't have any glue up here. You want to make sure you have glue everywhere. Make sure we get those edges. Get where I was holding it. There we go. All right, so this is going to be my upside. I think I'm going to cut it a little bit right now so I don't have as much to deal with. Where are my scissors? So I want about 1 inch above the top. So about 1 inch above the top, about 1 inch above or below the bottom. So I'll cut it right about there. And then I'm going to just go this way so you can see better. I am going to I just still like this side better. I'm going to fold it in half and then just kind of find the center point. It doesn't have to be exact. We have extra fabric here and it's going to be wrapped around. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's just easier to make sure that I have about enough on each side, or that I do have enough on each side. And then I'm just going to start with, just kind of press it down a little bit. Like that. Okay, now I want to make sure that I get down around the bottom. I want to make sure that I push both sides of the fabric around our string, since that's the whole point of putting the string in there, is to get that look. I'm going to spread it out between the two before I go to the next side. And the glue is coming up through here. You're going to get glue on your hands And you may want to wear gloves. I'm not a good one for ever remembering to wear gloves, even if I have them. I'm just kind of pushing that outside edge a little bit. If your hands get too sticky, have something to wipe them on so that the fabric isn't like sticking to your hands as you take your hands away. Okay, now we're going to come down and work on this end a little bit. Pushing the fabric right around that string to give us that definition. Then do the middle. And then do the very bottom one. Okay, now if it's not connected down by the edges down here, when we go to do the other side, we can always put some more glue there. Just kind of roll it back a little bit and put a little bit more glue there. My hands are getting way too sticky. Get that pushed in there nicely. And now we're going to let this dry. Oh, there's a few little spots here that are a little bumped up, and that's okay because it just gives you the texture of those old books. They're never perfect when you find them. So there we go. Now we have got that all attached, and I'm going to leave it sit right here for just a little while before I move it. And every so often I might come in and just make sure that it's pushed down. Like that. Now, if your hands are getting too sticky, but you don't want to get too much water on here or your glue's not going to hold, what you can do is just dip your fingers in the glue, in your water glue, because that still has water, but it also has the glue, and it helps you glide just a little bit more to work with what you're working on. And that's even with if you're decoupaging something down or something and it's getting too sticky, put a little bit of water glue on your fingers if that's how you're spreading it, or on your brush, and that will help it not be as sticky. There we go. Okay, so we're going to let this sit for just a little bit, then I'll move it out of the way and come back and we'll do the inside cover of the book while this is drying. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I'm back to do the front cover, but I did want to show you how this is looking right now. So it's drying, and I do keep kind of pushing it a little bit every so often. And my fingers are turning green. But I wanted to show you how, like where the glue, just touches in different ways here a little bit. It's really giving it a mottled look like what I was trying to get on the plastic. So I'm really happy with the way that that's starting to look. And I think I've rubbed a lot of the green off of here because this one keeps wanting to lift off. So this one's a little bit lighter between the strings. And that's cool too, because we're going for that kind of old-fashioned library book, like the leather look, even though this isn't leather. And I forgot all about the fact that I was thinking about doing this spine and using the black faux leather that we had, you know, to do strips on it like that. But I like the way that this looks. And so I think that that's very cool. So I am going to set this aside now, but I just wanted to show you how that was kind of modeling up a little bit and that I like that. Okay, so I found an envelope and I just went ahead and I just cut it. Now it's got a little bit of a fold in it. I want it to cover this front area here. And you know, the whole envelope wasn't big enough once I cut the, you know, the V off and everything to cover the whole thing without having a little fold. It doesn't matter. I'm covering the whole thing and I'm gluing it down, so that fold does not make a difference. So remember those kind of things when you think, oh, that's not big enough. And that fold's going to be covered also because we're going to put a lace pocket on the front. I was thinking about doing this as our spine, and kind of forgot about that too. And so I was going to do this as our spine. So now I've decided, because I love this piece of fabric off of the pillowcase that we bought. And so I'm going to do this as a pocket, but I want something behind it besides just the plain white. I think it looks nicer with the blue behind it. And then that ties it to this page over here. And then also in the back, where we did our hope, we put the basket weave on here, and this basket weave on the front. This one's a little bit darker than the one in the front. But that doesn't make any difference, but that kind of, you know, ties the whole book together. So I just cut this big enough to fit from the green part of my book with just a little bit of it showing, with a little bit of it showing here at the bottom also. And so I'm just going to glue this down. By the time that we are done with this series, I think I will be out of glue. But it's lasted, so that's the good thing. I don't have, trying to find something to put the glue on. Let me just use a page of this book. There we go. So we're going to just, I'm going to leave that right there though, because I want to be able to line it right up after I get the glue on it. So I'm going to put some glue on it. I had this sitting upside, there we go. I'm going to say I had it sitting upside down, so it should be ready to go. Just taking it right out to the edges because I don't want it to lift up. And then I'm just going to hold it down and use, this is just, I don't know what it is, something came in the mail, and just spread that glue around from the center all the way out to the edges and get it nice and kind of flat and smooth. You don't want great big lines, or it makes bumps kind of under your paper when your paper is thin. So then I just want to line this up. A little bit of green at the top and a little bit of green at the bottom. There we go. What did I do with the spreader? I'm going to use the side of the spreader that I didn't use to just kind of push that down. Make sure it doesn't have any glue on it. Sometimes when you get to the edges, it pushes glue out from under, so then you got to make sure that you wipe it before you, or at least check it before you use it again, so you're not spreading glue on the top, unless that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so there we go. Now we have that page covered, and we're going to take our little piece of lace, and it's got this little hem right here, so I think I'm going to line this hem up with the edge of the book. And let this little, just this little bit of the white hang out the front. I think that that looks really quite cute. I wonder if, let me see if I go from that. There we go. I'm going to cut it at this bump right here instead of a half of a bump. I'm going to cut it right at that one because it will fit exactly. so this is just going to take me right down through this center of this little hole and that one. Whoop. There we go. And then let's see where we need to cut the other end. I think maybe we should fold that over a little bit so it has more of a finished. Oh, let's do that. Let's fold it over, because when I folded it over, the little flower right there lined up. Oh, wait a minute though, because I would want to fold it right here. And that works too, because it's all been done by machine, so it's all pretty even. Yep, I think if we fold it over right there. Yeah, I like that. I don't need a hole. I'm going to cut off half of this scallop right here, because I don't want a big bunch of stuff in there. Or bunchy, I guess, you know what I'm trying to say. There we go. And then I'm going to glue it down before I do the other end. I forgot to put it upside down. That will even make where we glue it to the book even stronger too, because it'll be two thicknesses of the fabric. And just fold it right at the point. Line everything up. Whoop, now sticking to my finger. It's the only thing about when you glue fabric, the glue comes through the fabric or the lace or whatever you're doing, and it wants to stick to you. But once it's dry, it's fine. Okay, so there we go with that. Let's grab our book. Okay, so that's going to be at the top right there. I'm going to put it out to the edge like that. All right, so this is going to be the edge of the book, so I'm going to cut over 1/2 of a scallop and fold it over like I did the other side. There we go. And there's another piece for something. What did I do with my glue? Fold that right over to where the scallop lines up. Oh, it doesn't. This end doesn't seem to have lined up as well. What did I do with the little scrapey card? Take the dry end of that because it's got plastic on it. Kind of press down on it for a second, because my fingers are sticky now too from doing the other stuff, so there we go. And now we can get it in the book and then let it sit for a little bit. So I'm going to go right along this line here where I cut it off of the pillowcase, and then on both of these edges. I'm not going to get it on the scallops because I want the scallops to sit on the outside edge of the book. There we go. Make sure I don't have any glue there. And the brush that I was using to spread the, water glue, I just wrapped it in a really wet paper towel because I'm going to use it again, and that way I don't have to wash it and then use it and then wash it again. You can also stick it in a like a little plastic sandwich baggie with a damp paper towel, but just like for that day that you're using it. It won't stay forever. So I'm going to line this up at the top, the bottom. Fold this one in just a little bit. It came a little unfolded. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a Walmart bag on top of this. It needs to be folded in just a little bit. There we go. I'm going to stick a Walmart bag on top and stick a book on top with something heavy and let it sit a little bit so that those edges of that pocket, and then we will have a pocket right here to use. So I'm going to set this aside, and I will be back when the spine is dry and we will attach the spine. Okay, I'm back and we are ready to put our spine onto our journal. And so the first thing that we're going to do is I want to leave the top and the bottom as long as they are, because then they'll cover more of the inside of the book or of the spine. And this side is long enough. This side is a little bit long, so I'm just going to cut a little bit of that off, just so that, I don't know why. It'll be easier to fold over the corner without too much bulk. Alrighty, so that's going to fit inside. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to come in and cut on an angle. We're not going to cut right to the corner because you don't want that piece of cardboard to show. But in order to, if you fold this over and then you fold it over again, you've got all of this bulk in there. And you don't want this bulk on those corners. So what you do is we're just going to go in and just kind of cut on an angle, leaving just a little bit of space between the cardboard and where you cut the fabric. That way that corner won't stick out. So we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on this end also. And I kind of wanted to leave enough of this to make sure that I'm covering the inside of my tube here at the top. So there we go. Now we only have a little bit here where we'll fold this over and then we will fold this down, and we're only going to have just this little tiny bit here that we're going to have to fold over that will be extra layers. Alrighty, so Then what we're going to do is, the first thing we'll do is just put, well, I'm going to straighten this up just because it's bothering me because it's crooked. And there is no exact amount that you have to have here. You just want enough to make sure that it will fold over the edge, and that's all you need. I do want to get right out to the edge of this, and I want to get up in this corner. While this is open, I'm going to make sure that I get some glue on this corner part that is attached to this side. And we'll just do both sides before we fold it in, then we can fold them both in at the same time. And there we go. And then we're just going to go along here and fold that in. You're going to have a little bit of extra fabric here where you went around your string, which isn't going to make any difference. It's on the inside, but just so that you know, that will be a little bumpy there. And now I just kind of want to make sure that my edges are pretty pulled in so we don't have any big bunch of fabric sticking out. And there we go. Now if you want to, where these little bumps occur, you can just go in there and make a little snip with your scissors. Don't cut all the way out to the exact edge. And then you can just kind of lay that over, and that will get rid of that bump, and it will make it be easier. It'll lay easier on your journal also. So I'm going to do another cut right here, and again, not all the way out to the edge. And there we go. Making sure that it looks good on the outside edge. And then we're going to put a cut in here. I don't have any glue on this little piece of fabric, so I'm just going to get a little bit of glue in there. Or a lot of glue in there. Okay, and also one thing is when you're working with a glue that's kind of starting to get empty, but you don't want to put the top back on it every single time and put it upside down. If you lay it on its side, your glue will stay much closer to the top. Your glue will stay right there. Okay, let's check the outside edge of this one. That looks good. And then we're going to fold in our tops. I'm going to make sure that, even though, remember I said put the glue all the way out to the end of the side, that helps that glue together, but I just put a little bit more glue in there. Just to make sure that those are glued down good. Let's do the same here so that we don't forget. And then put glue on our fabric here. And then what I do is I'm going to pull it to make sure that I have a really nice corner here. I'm kind of pulling at a bit of an angle. Press that down, make sure it's got some glue under it and over it. Get that corner nice. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing over here. That one picked up. I'm going to pull that down. Now where I've got some wrinkles, I'm just going to put a few cuts so that I can kind of overlap it and get it flat. You will see a little bit of the inside if you look. So you do want that to be fairly neat inside at the top and at the bottom. There we go. And then our final corner, or our final end, and then we'll be ready to put it on our book. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to use a ruler to hold down one side, and the other half of my cover for my hands are getting too sticky, so I have a nice wet paper towel here. I always forget to do that, but it really works well for you to make sure you got something to wipe your hands on. Alrighty, so I'm going to pull that in and make sure it folds over really nice. I need to push it in just a little bit. I'm going to push the outside edge towards the middle just a little bit. It will give me a nicer corner. And when you're using wet glue, that gives you time to kind of play with things a little bit to make sure you get them where you want them. Put a little slice right there. Instead of fighting with the material, it will just help me get it to lay flatter. Okay, now we are ready to stick it on our book. We don't need to wait for it to dry at this point because we want it to fit really well to our journal, so leaving it wet is actually a better thing to do because then it's going to... Now I need to decide. I can look at this edge and look at this edge and think, which edge do I think looks nicer? And I think that I like this side better. So this is going to be my front side. So this is the front of our journal. And then we're going to decide where do we want it. I believe that we made it just a little bit longer than our fabric that we had in there. So that looks pretty good. And you can see, if you look straight down in there, you can see a little bit of cardboard. So you could cover that if you want to, but you know, by the time that you get it on there where it's going to be, you'd have to look really hard to see down in there. Alrighty, so this looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch past our fabric. This looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch past our fabric. So I'm going to, right at this end, I'm going to really give that a good massage. Just kind of, you know, work that a little bit. Looks good on this side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that really well, flip it over, and then look at this side of our book, making sure that that one's now, about 1/4 of an inch on this side. And about 1/4 of an inch on that side. That looks pretty good. So kind of massage it to the book. Kind of, you know, we're kind of pressing on these corners here. Wanting to get it so that it's ready to stay this way before we glue it. Or it's going to want to lift off anyways. So if you don't give it kind of a good massage on those edges, then it's not going to want to hold on. So now what I'm going to do, I've kind of got it there. Do I look pretty straight this way, like this? And it does. I'm going to kind of roll my cover that way just a little bit. And then bring it back up like this. I'm going to flip it over. Make sure that I've got this on here where it needs to be. Making sure that I'm coming about how far over I need to be. Does it look pretty straight? Looks like this one needs to come up just a little bit. That looks pretty straight. Kind of roll my book and kind of give that a little bit of a press. And in order to get it kind of nice, you take your time with these types of things because you really want that to be where you want it to be and you want it to stay there. And so you really just need to, you know, work it a little bit because it's going to need to be worked after it's glued and dried. Okay, I'm going to look at it again. Got about the same. And that looks about the same. Look at the spine itself. That looks pretty good. Looks like I may need to bring this top over just a little bit. And there, that's probably pretty good. Now, my thoughts are, do I want to leave this here or do I want to take it off? And I really don't like the way that it sticks out below. I kind of don't mind it above, but I really kind of don't like it on the bottom because it's just going to get dirty. So I'm going to remove that. And for sure on the bottom I'm cutting this off. I'm going to cut off the outside. Okay. And then, because I can see a little bit of the cardboard right there, I'm going to cut it there. And there. And then I'm going to fold this over so that we have a nice clean edge right there on the bottom of the spine. So we're going to pull that down. Just roll it over there, and then I'm even going to leave these here. Like that. And I didn't get enough glue on that one. There we go. And that will be on the inside of our spine, so we won't see that. But we will see this little bottom part here, so we definitely want to make sure that we finish that off nice. Okay, so there we go. Now the top still has to be a decision. So we'll have it on here like this. I think that I kind of like the way that that sticks out the top. I don't think I really want to take that off, so I'm going to leave that there. Now it's a matter of gluing everything together. So we are going to glue right up to about where the fold is. Not gluing the fold, just gluing the flat part. And the fold is here, so we're not going to go quite that far. You want that fold to kind of be able to move. Once this is good and dry, you'll want to work the spine so that it will open and close well. And you don't want this corner right here quite glued, you know, around the corner. You want that to be able to move. Was this the front? I don't remember. Well, we're just going to do it that way. Bring it to about where it needs to be. Now that we've got it glued, we really want to double check and make sure that it looks even. And that does look nice and even. Just give it a good press, hold it for a minute. And I do like to kind of wipe off the excess glue, especially if this were to be paper. Now this is a kind of a vinyl-y, canvasy covered book cover. So this I would probably be able to wipe the glue off, no problem. But if you have a paper one, and a paper cover, like scrapbooking paper, and then you go in there and you try and scrub that glue off like that, you're going to scrub your paper. So, and once it's dry, you have to scrub it. So make sure that you kind of check that out. Okay. So I think that that looks pretty good. Come over to the back. I'm a little bit crooked here. It's too high at the bottom and it's too tall at the top. And just give it a good press. Make sure you're lined up on both ends. Get that water off of there from my paper towel. It was quite wet. And there we go. So now as you go through, you're just going to kind of keep checking and pressing until it starts to take a bit of a hold. And then, now I wasn't thinking about the fact that I had these ribs in here. If I did not have those ribs in there, the way that I would hold this down is I would take my ruler and I would put it right on there. Set something heavy on top. And in order to make sure that my bottom was held flat, I would take another ruler or something. I don't have another ruler, so what I would do is I would use this book edge to hold the bottom. I would line it up like that just so the spine is just barely sticking over the edge. Then I would put my ruler on top and I would hold it down with something heavy. Here's the problem. The only place that this ruler is touching and the only place the book on the bottom is touching is at these points where the whatchamacall is, and that's not necessarily holding this down well. So what I will do, working on my glue still, I am going to take a Walmart bag and fold it up the size of this space. And here, and here, and even a little bit in here. Then I'm going to take my ruler and set it on top and set something heavy on top of that. So I'm going to grab some Walmart bags. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I actually will do the bottom first, put the book on it, flip it over. Maybe I'll do the ruler side first. Do that, then I can hold on to it and flip it over, set it down so it stays nice and tight, and then I will do this side, and I will be back and just kind of show you how to do like one little bit of it, so you'll have an idea what I'm talking about if my explanation's not great. Okay, so I'll be back in just a second.